I'd like to call to order the Plan Zone meeting for tonight, Tuesday, January 15th. Happy New Year to everybody in attendance for our first meeting of 2019. We'll start off with our public hearing. I would like to ask anybody in the audience to please turn off your cell phones as it could interfere with our audio recording. Roll call for public hearing, please.
Connell present. Hepner.
Here.
Ingram.
Present.
Johnson.
Present.
Lammers. Excused. Manus. Excused. Med. Excused. Quinn.
Here.
Reinertz.
Here.
Tallman. Excused. Schneider.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Connell. First item of business is a public hearing for case ROW 18-04 of McManus Development for the vacation or abandonment of public right-of-way south of 2950 Crestline Drive, containing roughly 3,000 square feet, more or less. Scott?
Scott Copes, Community Planning. So this is a pretty straightforward right-of-way vacation request. The two properties, 2930 and 2950, are owned by the same property owner. They'd like to join the two properties and vacate the right-of-way so they can put up a gate. Any questions?
What's on the other side of
That's
those
the city of
addresses? I mean, normally
Bettendorf.
when you vacate a road or an alley, doesn't the...
Yeah, City of Bettendorf is vacating the other half.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Concerned me. All right. Commissioners, any questions? Would anybody from the public like to speak with the petitioner? Is the petitioner present?
Yeah, the petitioner informed me they weren't going to be able to make it today, but they will be at the committee of the whole meeting.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Would anybody like to speak in opposition? Seeing none, last call for questions from commissioners. Seeing none, we will close this petition and that will end our public hearing. We'll move on to regular business. Roll call, please.
Hepner.
Here.
Ingram.
Present.
Johnson.
Here.
Lammers excused. Manus excused. Med excused. Quinn.
Here.
Reinertz.
Here.
Tallman excused. Schneider.
Here.
And Connell present, and we have a quorum.
Thank you, Commissioner Connell. Secretary's report of City Council activity.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Secretary's report.
Move the report.
Second.
All in favor of the report as written, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it will stay as read. Report of comp plan. Anything new, Matt?
No, except the zoning ordinance will be effective on January 20th, and if you get the Quad City Times, you'll get your own personal version in about 4-point type.
Thank you. It's very small.
Chairman Ingram has seen a proof copy, and I think it's pretty cool, actually.
I think it could rival what's written on the head of a pin in Guinness Book of World Records. There's a whole lot of letters on one page, I'm telling you. All right, we will move on to zoning activity. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Commissioner. I move case REZ 18-18, request by Ahmed Ismail for WK Development to rezone 0.83 acres, more or less, of property located immediately northwest of the intersection of Elsie Avenue and West Kimberly Road from R5M, medium density residential, to C2 general commercial district. And the staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission accept the draft findings and forward this case along with the 4 stated conditions to the City Council for approval, and I so move.
Second.
Case number REZ 18-18 has been moved and seconded for discussion. Matt?
Sure. Matt Flynn, Community Planning and Economic Development Department. Usually you ask me questions. I'm going to ask you a question. Do you remember what this is about?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been a while. So this was a public hearing on December 18th. With the holidays, we lost the cycle, and now we're at the very end of the, I'll say, the 2-week period. So just real quickly, this is out really across from the West Kimberly Walmart, immediately west of the new Genesis Clinic, or Healthplex as they call it. Really, this whole area of Kimberly is kind of the, I'll say, the Northwest Davenport, our community commercial node, surrounded on really all on 3 sides by commercial development, and then the neighborhood further to the north on Elsing. We had a neighborhood meeting, tried to have a neighborhood meeting. We didn't have any people show up other than the ward alder person, engineers, developers, real estate people.
Your chairman would have been there had he known.
You were there.
No, I wasn't. I was not at Rudy's for a neighborhood meeting, or I would have partaken in the festivities.
The staff apologizes for the oversight. We didn't have any comments. If you recall, we had one neighbor at the public hearing express concerns about traffic and impact of this development, potential development on the neighborhood. Again, real quickly, the new Genesis Center is in here. Their main driveway is located generally in this location. So the main entrance into Walmart, their fuel center, I believe that's the vacant Wendy's there. We have 2 existing single-family homes and a vacant outlot. We'll point out here, we'll go through the existing. I should have gotten rid of this because this isn't current zoning. This is the old zoning ordinance, and we're going to forget about that because it's not relevant anymore. But again, you can see it's kind of on the, as you'll see it in the findings. We call this out as being on an edge. So we recognize the need for transitioning in areas like this. Really, it's the only residential general designated property along this whole section. Everything else is designated as regional commercial. Here's the existing zoning with one change. I think the petitioner got nervous there for a second. But anyway, we're showing a little small, let's see. So we're at R3. I apologize, I can't read that. R3. We have C2, and on the property to the west, that has actually been designated C3. It's currently zoned, or it was zoned C1, and one of the adjustments that we made in the adoption of the new code is that we included, based on the petitioner's request and being the property owner, designating this far, or I'll say this lot immediately to the east of west of what's being proposed. We've already zoned that as C2, the corridor commercial. So again, with this C2 zoning, if this property is ultimately zoned to C2, it will create one development lot of approximately 1.7 acres in size. So, in review, first question I had, even without being real familiar with the property, is how can we manage traffic? Our traffic engineers and civil engineers have reviewed it, and with some conditions, we think that can be done. Again, that intersection is signalized already, so that's one concern. Mentioned the edge. Really, you start looking at this corridor, even though you've got a couple residences, you have to start questioning the long-term viability and thinking that probably the best use is commercial. We've talked a little bit about this. Even though there are there are vacant available commercial lots in the vicinity. It's hard to argue that this property being, again, with its visibility, access, being at a corner, it may actually be better suited than some of those other existing sites. So again, here's our recommendation to approve. You can see the findings, the conditions. One thing worth mentioning is that Kimberly is a DOT property, so there will be a need for some coordination there. There also may be a need for some right-of-way dedication. So you can see that as a condition. That parking along LC, we want to make sure that there's no parking on LC and that the driveway would be basically limited to the northern portion of the site. So with that, be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions for Matt? If not,
Oh, I do.
Reagan or Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you. I just am curious, what's the topography of the lots combined? Just, and maybe it's more of a commission or question for the developer as far as.
Well, I can answer that.
Okay, yeah.
If you've been out to the site, yeah, you've probably noticed that there is a ditch in essence between these two lots. So I can tell you that they've already had some initial discussions, not only with our engineering staff, but I'm sure their own civil engineer. Obviously, that will be a site challenge that will have to be addressed either by diverting drainage around or using underground systems, in other words, pipes, to handle the flow.
So will this come back to us when the final layout of this building? We probably won't see this again, so we don't really have any say. And will there be a connection to that frontage road on the north side of Discount Tire, or is it just going to be strictly off of LC?
I think it kind of depends. I think you can see how there may be value. You know, again, we're only supporting rezoning up to this point, but perhaps this frontage road can cut through the site, but without knowing specifics, without having a development to review, I think it would be premature to stipulate that as a requirement.
I wasn't looking for connectivity. I was just wondering if that could be another way out of the car wash property and exit over by Rudy's and down into Kimberly that way instead of, and the petitioner can speak when you get done, Matt.
Okay.
I was just curious about
Well,
that.
I think
So-
the short answer is yes, but a car wash would be just one use that would be allowed on the
Understood.
property.
Understood. And will our engineering be involved then with how they handle that runoff situation that Commissioner Johnson?
Absolutely. I mean, while I said the commission, that being said, the council won't have a final say on what ultimately goes there and its design, but these new development will still continue to go through a full site plan and architectural and building plan review process. So trust that it will be fully vetted before any permits are issued.
My final question, you mentioned this property as being on the edge. Considering I live west and north of there, can I quote you as saying I live beyond the edge?
No comment.
Or over the edge?
I'll clarify that by saying on the edge. I wasn't, pictures of the flat earth and the serpents and the ships going off the side. No, I'm not implying that. But my point of being on the edge is that it's on the edge of a regional commercial designation and a residential general.
You don't have to take
But
it
you
so
are beyond the
seriously.
edge.
But Commissioners, any additional questions for Matt? Seeing none, thank you, Matt.
And again, the developer petitioner is here if you have any further questions.
I would like the petitioner to have the opportunity, if he'd like to come up and explain his petition, in case there's any questions.
Hi, My name's Charlie Armstrong. I'm a commercial real estate broker with NAI Rural Commercial here in Davenport. We gave you a presentation last time. I'm happy to review that if y'all want to hear it again. Otherwise, I'm open to taking any questions you may have about the rezoning.
I'd like to I know you were nodding in the audience, but I'd just like to
But you being on the
restate-
edge, or?
No, not that one. We're over the edge. We're done with the edge. But you would consider connecting to that frontage road?
Yeah,
with
it would
whatever
be
your
up to
development may
whoever
be?
ultimately purchases the property. That road is there for their use. We certainly are going to need ingress and egress from Elsie, but that road is for their use and an option. I would guess it would be quite logical to want to use that.
Okay. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, yeah. That
Commissioners?
was the intent, that was the intent when the road was put in.
Thank you. Commissioners, any additional questions of the petitioner's representative? Seeing none? Appreciate it. Anybody else in the audience like to speak? Seeing none? Not much audience. We will then, commissioners, final call. Roll call, please.
Johnson?
Yes.
Lammer is excused again, as is Menis, as is Mid. Quinn?
Yes.
Reinertz?
Yes.
Tallman excused again. Schneider?
Yes.
Connell, yes. Hepner?
Yes.
And that passes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Connell. That would conclude zoning activity. No subdivision activity tonight. Any future business, Matt?
It'll probably show up on the next preview. We've got a first case of the year. It's a rezoning on Grand Avenue that you'll be hearing more about in the upcoming few weeks.
Thank you. Communications? Anybody on commission?
Could I ask who seconded the?
That would be Commissioner
Rezone.
Connell.
I seconded the one.
Okay, so who? Oh, Commissioner Johnson. Thank you.
She moved it. Commissioner Connell seconded.
Thank you.
Any other business? Seeing none?
Move to adjourn.
All in favor of adjournment, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are officially adjourned from our first meeting of 2019. Thank you for your attendance.